G'day, welcome back to another episode of TOGL. Well, as I mentioned last week when I was doing that hike, I was coming back to get into some wood splitting. Well, I've been working on the wood splitting for days now, and thankfully my very good mate Pete has lent me his 50-ton log splitter. This thing's a beast. I can definitely see myself owning one of these in the future, so this is helping me get through it. We've got these piles of logs and that around from when we've been clearing up trees that had fallen down and whatnot over the years. 3 years we've been on the block now. Not living on the block, but we've owned the block, and I've been up here working and doing stuff. So yeah, I've got all these piles of timber and offcuts and that sort of thing. I just needed to get it all split up, consolidated, and then stacked. And I'll get a roof line built over that as well, just to keep all of our firewood nice and dry and whatnot. So look at the size of that pile behind me. That's about 6 foot in the center there, high, and it's massive pile. We've still got to stack all that yet, but I've got more wood to split today. So I'm going to flash up the log splitter. For ease, we've just left it on my trailer when we brought it down here, because it was easier than trying to get it off the trailer and get it on, because the 50 ton, I jokingly said I think that relates to the weight of the thing, not how much it can split, because it is bloody heavy. So we've just left it up on the trailer, and that way I can just hook the trailer up to the car and back it in every night, get it under cover and that sort of thing. So anyway, time to get this flashed up now and get into some more log splitting. Yay! just got a call out for another bee swarm to go and get. This one's actually a colony. It's living inside a lounge chair that was out the back, a sofa. So I'm going to go and see if I can get that out. And if I can, I'm going to show you a little tool that I've made recently, a little bee vacuum, and I'll show you how that works. Anyway, I'll see you when we get over there. Alright, so here we are at Latrobe, and this is the couch behind me that has the bees in it. And I can see that when the fellas moved it, there's some honeycomb has already dropped out down the bottom there. So the plan will be to cut all the back off and then start to extract that comb out and put some of the comb into the beehive that I've got sitting over here. Now what I'm going to do, I made this up not long ago actually. It worked really well on one of the last extractions I did. And so what I do is I actually just connect the vacuum to this end, and inside here I've got, apart from that, this piece of pipe. It's full of holes. So I vacuum with this part, and what happens is the bees come in. Because this is low pressure there, the bees just drop to the bottom, and then they don't get sucked onto these holes because there's enough holes there with the pressure, and so it sucks the air back out. But it's enough, and it doesn't cause a vacuum as such, so the bees are fine in there. So I can vacuum all of the bees into here, and then I can just tip all the bees, hopefully with the queen, over into the hive. Like I said, it worked very well on the last extraction I did. So first up, let's get this lounge moved and have a look. Actually, first up I need to get suited up. That might be a good idea. Okay, now I can see that there's some honey there, some brood. We've got brood there that's come out, but I'll just put that to the side for now. I may utilise that later. We'll see how much is in there. Well, as you can see, that's interesting. That's a solid timber back. I'm going to have to take that off too. Okay, so I'm guessing they haven't been there overly long. It's not a massive hive. Some of it has fallen down on the floor, but I think we've got a good chance of recovering a lot of this. And time to get on with the vacuuming. This is a very long process and quite often back-breaking process. But I find it actually is less disturbing to the bees and a greater chance of success as well. Just trying to vacuum up all of the bees. Bees will always tend to climb up, so they're all up in the top there. I'm trying to get them all. Now the process, once I've captured a lot of the bees, is to then get the pieces of honeycomb and get as much of that as I can into the new hive, because this is essentially their home. So especially like the brood, which is the babies, I want to get as much of that in as I can. So I use the frame to measure up the shape, and then using the knife, just cut. Now obviously there's always going to be a few little fatalities there. You're going to have to cut through some cells. The bees had been really calm. You can see they're not even on me, and it's not because I vacuumed them all up. There's still plenty over the back there. So I thought I'm going to give this a go without the gloves, because it's hard to do this with the gloves. So I get wire, put it on either side, put the comb in like that, and then I just tie up the wire. And that holds that comb into the frame, and then once the bees get to work, they'll seal it in. So there's one piece, nicely in the frame. Let me pop that into the hive. Now I haven't poured the bees into the hive yet. They are still over in that container, the ones that I've vacuumed up. So I repeat this process multiple times. Watch my left hand, the pinky finger. As I'm twisting that, I push down on the ground, straight onto a bee, and a bee got me. Now that was my fault because I pressed onto the bee. Very calm colony of bees, this one. So I'm really looking forward to being able to breed some queens out of this hive, or out of this colony, because the queen sets the mood of the hive, and these bees are very calm. So after probably an hour and a half of doing this, maybe a little longer, we had all the bees captured, all the comb into the hive, and I was finished. Back on our little farm, and the chickens are doing really well. Not only these light Sussex, but the Quambies. That mother hen there managed to hatch 2 chicks the other day, which is really cool. They're the first chicks to be naturally hatched, as in we didn't do it with the incubator, but the mother hatched them herself. So that's really cool, and it also proves that that rooster we just got, he's doing the right thing as well. She's been a really good protective mum, that Quambi. As you can see, it's windy though, and we have been battling the wind. Winds up over 50 kilometers an hour, absolutely battering us up here on the hill, day and night, day after day. This is supposed to be summertime. Haven't seen the summer weather yet. Just about had enough of this wind too. Today I'm going to show you how I use the leftover honeycomb out of the bees' hives. So you can see right here, comes in a variety of colours. This one's very new comb, probably never even been used by the bees, whereas this may have been used several times by the bees, but it's still very clean because there's nothing in any of the cells. Sometimes when I go and recover a lot of this comb, the honeycomb, there'll be honey in it, but there'll also be pollen and brood and all sorts of things. So I can actually see there's bits of pollen in there which I can take out, but you're not going to try and pick it all out anyway. So what you're going to do with it is I basically just get a saucepan, an old saucepan that you're not going to use anymore, and we're just slowly melting down all of the wax. Now you can melt it straight over a flame, but you want to make sure that you don't boil it, because if you do, you'll turn the wax a very dark color. Some of this I have actually done that too, unfortunately. The bees don't really care. Depends on whether you want to make something or what you're going to make with the wax. I'm going to show you how I make wax foundation to go back into the hive. So we just break this up and we just slowly melt it down. Now, if there are a lot of junk and impurities in it, I must apologise for the wind noise. We've been getting wind gusts of up to 60 kilometres an hour here. It's really noisy, and it's been doing it for days. It's driving me bonkers. But as I was saying, if you do have a lot of impurities in here, then you want to strain that gunk out. So you can just use like a piece of cheesecloth or just a piece of cotton cloth. Now bear in mind that if it's dyed cotton, you may have that ink colour flow out. I have ended up with green wax before in the past, but you just get, you know, this is just a glass bowl that I use as a part of our wax making process. This is just a piece of cloth. It does have some print on it, but it's fairly minor. I don't think it'll be an issue. So we just pop that over and pop a rubber band around it to hold it in place. Might need a big, broke the rubber band. I need a bigger rubber band. Okay, what I'm going to use, I've got some elastic string type stuff here that I'm going to use, but you could just use normal string, you could use sticky tape, anything really, little strap, belt. You just basically want to be able to hold that material down. Okay, so now I'll be able to pour the wax into that and drain it into the bowl. Get rid of the gunk, and then I'm just left with the pure wax. And then what I do is I pour them into molds. These are just your silicon cupcake molds. You can use any shape. I've done rectangles before for like the molds you'd use for bars of soap or whatnot. But you just pour your wax into that, and then you can store your wax in blocks like that. It smells good too. So that way you can then just use the wax when you need it, use the beeswax when you need it for things. As I said, I'm going to show you how I make what's called wax foundation. Wax foundation, I use a mold like this. So that's impregnated with the honeycomb pattern. And what I do is I make a sheet of wax with that honeycomb pattern impregnated into it. I can then put that in the frames that then go into the beehives for the bees to build on. Other things that we can make though, you can use the material and make beeswax wraps. They're becoming more popular now, especially with everyone trying to cut down on plastics. And do we have some beeswax wraps up there? I think I've put them elsewhere. Can't find them at the moment. But yeah, what you can do is you basically get a combination of your beeswax, coconut oil or olive oil. There's a number of oils you can use, and also something called pitch, which is like a pine tree resin. You mix them together. It then makes a darker wax. Some I made earlier because it's got the other oils and that in it. It becomes softer and a bit tackier. And what you can do is you melt that and you soak your material in that, and you make a wrap, and you just use it for wrapping food instead of using plastic. So you can do that. You can make candles, you can make hand balms. Kayleen's made some hand moisturising balms and that sort of thing. Lots of things you can make with the beeswax. But to start with, you've got to melt it down, you've got to strain it, get that pure wax. What you can see here, all these little bubbles, they look like little bubbles, they are the empty cells from when bees have hatched out, and that's the gunk that we need to filter out. So that wax is slowly straining itself through the material, and this is all of the crud that's left behind that you don't want. So the wax that's in this bowl I will add back to the saucepan in a minute, but I'm also going to start melting down some of this wax as well. And again, just on the absolute lowest heat possible, just to melt it. These are some blocks that I made just out of pouring it into like an old ice cream container. I also have some other silicone molds where I make them into smaller pellets like this. So now that as much as is going to come out has drained through, I can lift this off now. All that gunk can just go into the compost really. Set it there for now. Then we have that beautiful wax in there, which I will add to my pot. Now, to get more of that wax, I can actually, I was saying about you can't heat it over a flame, just be careful not to boil it. What you can also do though is put this glass bowl onto a bigger pot of boiling water and melt your wax in the bowl, and that way you're never going to burn your wax if you do it that way. It's probably the better way to get started, is doing it that way. That's how I'll get the rest of that wax out later. So now we've pretty much got all of that wax melted, all those cubes that I put in there. There's just a few little bits left. I'll just wait for them to melt off and then we'll be ready to go. Alright, so what you can see here, this is my silicone mold. Comes in two pieces. You line it up by pushing these down. What I like to do is actually just keep them clipped I've put greaseproof paper underneath because the wax is going to run out. I need to turn it over the right way actually, because there's a lip there. That's better. Yeah, so wax will run out onto the bench. So put down some greaseproof paper or something. And then I've got a sink of cold water there. So once I've poured it and it's starting to set, I can just drop it into the cold water just to really kick it off. Really make it set in a hurry. Okay, so our wax is looking nicely melted. So I want to fold this out the way. And then what we do is we just start the pour, making sure that we've got it all and we don't leave any gaps, and then we just roll this forwards. We can see that it looks like we're going to miss some. Just top it up a little bit. All the way through. And fold that down. Now, as I said, some of that wax is going to come out the end. I'm actually going to build a board with a trim around the edge so that it captures any mess. So once that's in, just there we are. Yeah, so I think what I'll do is I'll make a board. I'll probably pin this edge down really tight so it doesn't pop out. Then I can make sure I can get the wax right up to this back edge. Because at the moment the wax probably starts about there and then runs forwards. And then once that sets off a bit, so I've already got some on the bench. But once that sets off, then I'll pull that out. Into the sink to cool it right down. Just means I can peel it out faster and get the next one done. This wax here, all I'll do with that is just pop it back over here into the saucepan, ready for the next one. Okay, so now I'll take this out of the sink, drain the water off it, and we'll have a look and see how we've gone. So that one comes off like that. And there we have our sheet of wax foundation. So that goes into the frame, and then the bees will make their comb on that. Now that you could also roll up, make a candle, put a wick in there and roll it up and make a candle. You'd use it for all sorts of things. Wax foundations. And so, the result of all of that processing of the wax, I've ended up with, a couple of days later, this beautiful big Not a cheese wheel, it's a wax wheel. So this beautiful big block of wax. Now you can see there's still a bit of dirty crud and stuff that's on it, especially on the underneath. That was the underneath side, because the wax tends to float up and then the residues sink to the bottom. Now I did do a fairly good filter of it through a fine mesh, but if I wanted to get that really clean, what I could do is filter it through like cheesecloth or something like that, and then the entire block would just be that pure buttery yellow color, and you'd get rid of all of that. And if you're going to make candles and that sort of thing, that's what you'd do. For me though, it doesn't matter about these little bits, it's more just a discoloration, because I'm going to be using this for making those foundation sheets, which will go into the beehives, and they don't care about that. What this stuff is, it's probably just little bits of pollen and stuff that had come out of the honeycomb that I'd done. But yeah, beautiful, and it smells amazing, smells really good. So anyway, yeah, that's what I'm doing there. So making my own foundation and other products out of the wax as well. Now, I'm about to cook myself some dinner. Check this out. I have got lovely chips that I've cut up from our own potatoes. You saw us digging them out of the garden the other week. And it's going to be chips and calamari. Again, calamari, I caught that down at the beach here. The eggs that I used to crumb it, from our chickens. Had to buy the breadcrumbs, but not bad. Potatoes from us, calamari fresh caught, eggs from our chicken. Beautiful. We are starting to get a lot of really cool stuff. Beautiful. We've got a few jars of honey from some of the bee colonies that I've had to go and get recently. You saw us harvesting the radishes. Kay's made some beautiful pickled radish. And same as a while back, we harvested a lot of small pickling onions. So we've got several jars of the pickled onions as well. And also for dessert, what have we got? We've got beautiful stewed rhubarb from our rhubarb plants. So yeah, we are starting to eat a lot more out of our own garden and foraging, which is just fantastic. It's blackberry season at the moment, so over the next couple of days I'm going to get down to some of the areas I know where the blackberry bushes, hedges, vines, whatever you want to call it, they grow in abundance. They have really good blackberries on them, so I'll be going down and getting some blackberries, because again, you know, I can stew some of them up and freeze some, have some fresh. I might even look at actually bottling some as well, so you can put them, you know, put the blackberries into the bottle, put the lid on, and then you boil that bottle for like 45 minutes. When it comes out and it cools down, it causes a vacuum. That would last for years. In America they call it canning, even though it's actually in a bottle, preserving, whatever you want to call it. So I'll probably put some into jars as well. Really looking forward to once we've actually got our main house up and having some shelving where we can store a lot of this sort of produce, because I think, you know, having all of the different colors up along the shelves looks really cool, and it's edible. So it's kind of what we've been striving towards, is we'll never be 100% self-sufficient, and we're not, you know, kidding ourselves that we would be, but it'd be nice to be, you know, 70%, 80% self-sufficient. So obviously the oil I had to buy that I'm going to cook this stuff in, there's always things you're going to need to buy, and that's not a problem. But if you can get the majority of your food fresh and you know what's gone on to it, why not? So yeah, I'm going to get to and cook up these chips and calamari and have myself some dinner. And there we go, lovely dinner of fried calamari and chips. Yummo. Looking forward to tucking into that in just a second. One other thing that Kay's done is we're trying something different here. This is honey, what do they call it? Honey preserved or honey pickled, honey fermented. This is honey fermented garlic. So it's the garlic that we picked out of the garden, and we've put it into honey that we got from our bees. So honey fermented garlic, supposedly very good. We haven't tried it yet, and really good health benefits as well. So yeah, Google that up, have a look. Honey fermented garlic. So lots of things that we're doing. Anyway, that's it for this episode this week. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks very much for watching. I do appreciate it. Love the comments that we've been getting. Fantastic. Appreciate those comments being dropped in. It helps other people find the videos as the videos become more popular. So anyway, thanks very much. As I said, I'm going to go and enjoy my dinner now. You stay safe, take care, have a great week, and I'll see you next Friday. Thanks for watching. Cheers. native pepper berries off our block.